Once again, my name is Aviel. I'm Israel Super Guy, and as I said, we're gonna be talking about Sarah. We've been using this translation, Genesis 23, the beginning of Genesis 23, to Genesis 25 till verse 18. So the name of the parashah is in Hebrew it's called Chayei Sarah, which means the life of Sarah. I was studying, as I was preparing for this lesson, it's very interesting that the parashah begins with the death of Sarah, and it ends the parashah with the death of Abraham. So Sarah died, and let me show you where was traditional where we believe she is buried. So this is what Hebron look today. This is a shot from the air. This is the modern city of Hebron. But what I wanted to show you is this. You see this building right here? Well, this is a mausoleum. We believe it was built perhaps by Herod the Great. Kind of interesting because this building today is a synagogue and a mosque. So the cave is beneath the building. No one is allowed to go to that cave. So Sarah died, and it's kind of interesting when you read the conversation between Abraham and the Hittites. We should not, according to some scholar, we should not confuse these Hittites mentioned here with the Hittite, the Indo-European, what today will be Eastern Turkey. So this seems to be the local people, and they start the negotiation. It seems like Abraham is trying to, yeah, sure, no problem, take the cave. No. Abraham start. This is typical in the Middle Eastern. If you've never been here and you ever come to the Middle East, in certain areas, especially in old city of Jerusalem, you have to bargain. If you've been here before, let us know in the comments below. And it seems like he's so generous. No problem, take it. No. How much does it cost? So we know the story. He paid 400 talents. And there's no, at this time in history, there's no actual money, no paper or coins for that matter. Everything is in weight, 400 talents, which is a lot. Because if you compare it to Jeremiah, he have to redeem the land, piece of lot. It was 17, and this is 400. Obviously, poor Abraham, he was ripped off. Never mind, he bought the cave. So chapter 23 of Genesis deals with the death of Sarah, and she was 127 years old. Isaac is born when she was 90. So it means that Isaac was almost 40 years old when his mother died. That's why if you watch the Parashah before, I invite you, if you haven't done it, it's recorded. And I mentioned the offering of Isaac in Christian tradition. It thinks like he's a little boy. But in Jewish tradition, this is a grown-up man. This is how we can calculate the age of Isaac when that event happened. For that, you have to refer to the Parashah before. And chapter 24, that's a big challenge. Because Abraham, we're going to see it in the map, Abraham is asking to his servant. Funny that doesn't mention the names of, we know he's the head of the servant. Traditionally, we think this is Eliezer, although he is not mentioned by name. And Abraham asked him, listen, my boy needs a girl. All men need a girl, a good girl. However, please, I'm paraphrasing chapter 24. Swear to me that you're not going to get any of the girls around us, kind of night. Just go to my family and come. So let's see the map for a moment. So I remind you that if you can look at the mouse moving, this is the area in which Abraham is with his boy Isaac, right here. This area is about 1,000 meters above sea level. This is the mountains of Hebron. And Eliezer, assuming that it was Eliezer, he has to go all the way north to where Abraham came from. At least it can take him 2 weeks to reach there. But I like what Eliezer told Abraham. And we find it in verse 5. What if the woman doesn't consent to follow me to this land? Let's use our logic that God gave us. a complete stranger. And he goes very far to look for a wife for Isaac. I mean, although this is a patriarchal society, as it is still in many parts of the world, at the end of the day, the girl can say, no, I don't want to. So let's assume, for the sake of argument, that this is Eliezer speaking. And Eliezer, just to double check, say, listen, what if she doesn't want to come? And we're going to see. And the servant of Abraham, basically, he had 2 weeks as he's arriving. How are we going to do this? I mean, I never saw his profile to make sure this is Abraham family. But I like how, obviously, when we are reading the text, it sounds like it's passing really fast. But remember, this takes time. And Eliezer, assuming there is Eliezer, he's not traveling alone, traveling in a caravan, he's going with servant. He's packed. He's taking 10 camel. You know how much you can load on a camel? A lot. With goodies, jewelry, gold, spices, the good thing of the land. Basically, what Eliezer was going to tell whoever this girl, he doesn't know who Rebecca is. Listen, there's more where this came from. So your future will be secure. But I like what Eliezer said. We're going to read verse 12. And obviously, this man knew the God of Abraham and what he has done for his master. I mean, this is not a story in a vacuum. And he said, "Oh Lord, God of my master Abraham, grant me good fortune this day and deal graciously with my master Abraham." He's pleading not for himself, but for his master, for the sake of his master. "Here I stand by the spring as the daughter of the townsmen come out to draw water. Let the maiden to whom I say, please lower your jar that I may drink," and who replied, "Drink, and I will also give water to your camels. Let her be the one whom have decreed for your servant Isaac. Thereby I shall know that you have dealt graciously with my master." But listen, let's once again, let's use our logic here. This is not an easy task for this servant. He doesn't know her. And notice the text tells us this is the daughters of the time. This is the job was done by women. Even today, in many parts of the world, in Africa, in Asia, where they don't have running water. Don't you ever think that because you have running water in your house, this is the norm? No, it's the opposite. And the story tells us, guess there? He meets Rebecca, but he still doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know she's married or engaged. She doesn't know whether she's even a prostitute. It's all like he doesn't know any of this stuff. That's why he has to put a flea. And remember, this is not the norm. There is sovereignty over here. Obviously, the hand of God is involved in all of this. But also, there's an element of the will of man. Because it's kind of funny. Not funny, haha, but because Abraham tells him, he will send his angel before you. In the text, that's what Abraham, because now Abraham has seen them. Remember the story with the Parashah before? He trusts so much God, will listen. He will send your angel, although there's no angel involved in all. So there is the sovereignty of God, but also there's the element of the will of Rebecca, because at the end she will decide whether she want to go to a land that she never been before. So he meets her and she's offered to give water to the camel. Do you know how much water a camel drinks? And it says 10 full camels. I had the opportunity to fetch water once just to it's not an easy job, especially if you wanna if you wanna satisfy the third of this animal. Well, I know that we see that a lot of Christian art with women and a jar of water. No, this is not romantic. This is hard work, and the job of a girl who fetches water, they don't. That's kind of funny because they don't come from good families. This is the job of a servant. So why is Rebecca doing that? Kind of interesting, right? Anyway, Eleazar, although his prayer was answered, he's a very wise man. He is not led by his emotion. And no. Look what the verse. Let's jump to verse. He said, meanwhile, this is the servant. He stood gazing at her silently, wondering whether the Lord have made Aaron successful or not. In other words, he tested to see whether this was from God or not. Because many oftentimes we rush and we make decisions so fast in our life. And we think, oh, this is God. God told me. No, 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 wait a minute. He's gazing, thinking, silent. He's not led by his emotions. Sadly, many Christians are like, they are led by their emotions. And they think, and then they make poor choices in their life. And I'm also speaking by experience. Make a lot of poor choices in my life. He goes to the house of Rachel, and they are very interesting because we're going to see him later on. Don't forget Laban, a brother. Kind of funny name. You know what Laban means in Hebrew? White. Maybe the guy was pale. we really don't know. Because the servant of Abraham, gave him gift, and Rebecca said, oh, look what this man brought to me. And when Laban saw it, I cannot imagine his side going, point, because it said, when he saw the nose ring and the band of his sister's arm, and when he heard him, sister Rebecca say, thus the man spoke to me. He went up to the man who was still standing beside the camels at the spring. This is a very, very interesting character. We're going to see him later on with the life of Jacob. All right? So the servant explained what he came to do, that he is servant of Abraham. These are relative, but this is obviously her niece, and basically their cousin. But at the end of the day, the decision was on Rebecca. Because the servants, obviously I'm jumping here. And verse, look at this, because again, this is connected to future Parashah, verses 50. Then Laban and Bethuel, this is the father. Seems to me that he's an old man because it is Laban who's taking care of this negotiation. The matter was decreed by the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Laban knew the Lord. Did he? We are going to see this in future Parashah. So if you're watching us through YouTube, or if you're watching us also in our Facebook, just stay tuned, because we're going to find out whether Laban really, really knew the Lord. When I say the Lord, I'm talking about the creator of the universe. And Laban and the servant said, please, okay, and we need to rest. It's been a long journey, but I need to go back. No, stay here for a week. This is customary. This is, Middle Eastern hospitality, which is still until this very day. If you're watching us anywhere, tell me, is it part of your culture to be like this? It is kind of interesting. And then this, you know what? They called Rebecca and said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I will. Now think about for a moment. How many fathers are watching us with daughters? And will you will you allow your daughter go to a strange land that she never been, or you never been? You just heard about it. To marry a guy she never seen. Tough call. Obviously, we don't do this day. Although this day, online dating. Careful with that. Be very, very, very careful. Because, as I said before, Laban was not led by his emotion. Needed to know who the girls was. Needed to know who the family was. So before you get into any committed relationship, I'm not a counselor. I'm just only speaking by experience. Just be careful. Because Rebecca decided to go, and look 61, and this is what I'm curious. Why is she doing the job of fetching the water? Because verse 61. Then Rebecca and her maid arose. She have maid. Why she's not fetching the water? Again, this is where when we come to I told you, there are two elements in this story. There is the element of the sovereignty of God. Isaac and Rebecca needed to come together because there is a plan. It's not just by chance. But also there is an element of the will of man. In this case, her will. Do I want to come? Do I want to really go there? Never seen this guy. I don't know what he's like. Is he going to love me? Is he going to treat me well? Well, we see the goodie that the Eliezer brought, assuming that it's Eliezer, of course, with him. There's more. where this came from. But ladies, you know this. You can answer this. Not a matter of wealth. I mean, you can be married to the richest man on the world. And look at the richest man on the world just got divorced. Not about that. Because you want to be treated with respect, with honor, obviously with love. All women yearn. And we all men have obviously we do have the capacity, but we have the challenge because we oftentimes, we fail to do that. So this is an element of the will, and this is an element of the sovereignty of God. And this is what I wanted to get. What lesson can we today learn from this story? Are they written there just as it's a good story? When was the last time you actually read a story? And pay a little bit more attention to the text between Isaac and Rebecca, the family that she came from, because there's more story about her and her family coming up in the coming Parashah. And it has to do, as I said, in the Bible. I often hear these Christians say, well, I'm going to say it in a moment, in the Bible doesn't tell you who you should marry. The only two requirements, put it this way, they will give one to the people of Israel, that they should not marry anyone who was not in Israel, period. We do know that not everyone followed this rule. And for Christians, Paul was very specific. Do not join to anyone with an unequal yoke. Meaning, must be on the same faith, both to Israel and to the church. That's it. No, I'm praying to, I'm talking about especially those who are single. Again, I'm not a counselor. I'm a teacher, but I'm not a counselor. But I'm speaking from the scripture because it doesn't tell you, excuse me, whether he's tall or short, chubby or skinny, poor, rich, with a degree, without a degree, or you call it, what is it called in the West? Blue collar, white collar, something like that. Working class, middle class. Oh, there are women who I want a rich man. Okay, good luck with that. None of this. Only that they be of equal yoke. And I've seen sometimes, especially here in the land, that many what I call they miss the train. What do I mean by that? That they miss someone of the equal yoke, but they want supernatural revelation. They want a voice from heaven saying, "This is the one. You must marry them." Well, in that waiting, they let pass an opportunity to be with someone who will love them and look after them and respect them and honor. And like Rebecca is a matter of the will. Yes, there's the sovereignty of God, but there's an element of you can decide. And just be wise, know the person, know the culture, in case he's from another country, but not the family. Don't be led by them. Eliezer was a wise man, assuming there was Eliezer, the servant. And although he asked God if he does this and that, because sometimes we also fall into this. Well, Lord, if he was born like this, this is the one. I heard stories like that. And sadly, even among believers, unfortunately, we do have divorce. I'm not here to judge anyone. Just pray, but be wise. Do not let by the emotion, because it can lead you to poor choices. This is what we today can learn. So, ladies, gentlemen, because this is also with you. You pray, obviously, like Eliezer, assuming this is Eliezer, servant. But don't be led by your emotions. So the heart of man can be deceiving. Okay? Test. Look what he said. I'm going to read it again. Eliezer. Assuming this is Eliezer, all right? I'm going to read the longest chapter in the Torah, chapter 24, verse 21. The man, this is the servant. Meanwhile, this is after, remember, he prayed, Lord, if she offer me water, not just to me, but to the camels, I'm going to understand this is the one. Meanwhile, stood gazing at her silently, wondering whether the Lord have made his errand successful or not. What do I mean by this? So sometimes we like to put this kind of plea. Lord, if he tells me so and so, if he's like that or like that, or he's from here or from there, then I will understand. Wait a minute. Because even if you meet a person accordingly to your description, according to your desire, according to your list, whatever that is, silently wonder whether or not this is the one. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to hear, but even Abraham told the angel, no, well, let's do it again. He will send his angel before you. This is Abraham speaking. He didn't send any angel. There's no angel in this story. It was the servant being wise and Rebecca exercising her will. Because we're going to see in our next parasha who came out of this union between Isaac and Rebecca. Dear friends, let us know where you're watching us from. And if you find this beneficial, and if you think someone will be blessed by this lesson, so I encourage you to share it with them. The video we saw at the beginning of that Machpelah is also found in my book, my latest book, The Land of the Messiah, which is a series they are created. There's more to come, so you can always check in the description below the link to the book. All right? If you have any question, please let us know. I will do my best to answer that in due time. And I hope that the Lord will bless you and give you wisdom. And do not be led by your emotion, but by the Spirit of the living God. Once again, my name is Aviel. I'm Israel, super guide from here, from the land of the Messiah. Shabbat Shalom.